Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Cinema 4D tutorial. Today we're going to be going over how I created that logo reveal. Some of you guys may have seen that. If not, I'll provide a link down in the description. You can go check it out. Anyways, that's what we're going to be creating today. This tutorial is probably going to be fairly long because there's a lot to cover. So I may break this into a couple different parts. But without further ado, let's go ahead and open up the original project file. And I'll run you through some of the elements and things that I used to create the video. Alright, so here it is, and if we just press the play button, you're going to see nothing too special here, but there's a lot that can be learned creating something like this, and that's the main goal of this tutorial. So you can see it there. Let's just do a brief rundown of some of the stuff I used. So if you look over here in the hierarchy, we have softbox, and we've done our lighting. We have an HDRI studio in here as well. I'll show you guys how to set those up. We've got a couple different cloners, and these are driving the cubes here. And then on these cloners, we have a plane effector attached to them so that it makes these cubes stand out more, and it gives us render more depth. We've got our model, which I gave it a pretty plain name there, original name. So we're going to be creating the logo here, and what's really cool about this tutorial, I've talked about some of this, I've talked about in other tutorials, and some of it I haven't, and I always have new viewers, so this may help you out. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to take these cameras and we're going to attach them to splines, so we can basically draw out a spline and then attach a camera to that spline and then animate it along that path, and that can give us some really smooth precise camera animations. You know, we can really visualize and see how we want our camera to move in our scene. As well as that, we have a couple different tags applied to the camera, and one of them is the target object tag. And basically what you can do is add that tag to the camera and then drag and drop what you want your target object to be down here, and when we press play, it's automatically going to do this for us. It's going to stay focused. You'll notice the camera is staying focused on this object here, and I actually did not animate that. It's all driven by this tag, which is really cool. We're also going to be going over the stage, using the stage object, and setting up multiple camera angles in a single render. Once again, I've done a tutorial on this as well, but like I said, I always have new viewers, so you may not already know that, so it's good to know. And that's the basic rundown of what we're going to be creating today. So let's go ahead and start fresh here. So I'm just going to go to File, New, and the first thing we're going to do is create the background. So that's going to be our cloner object with cubes. So let's just go up to MoGraph and go to Cloner, and then we're going to grab this cube object. Just click on that. It's going to drag. It's going to drop in a cube. Click and drag and make this a child of the cloner, like so. And let's go ahead and go up to display. I am using Cinema 4D R14, and I want to change my shading to lines here, just because I think it's a little bit easier to visualize. We're going to go back to the cloner, and we're going to change the mode from linear to grid array, and we're going to change the count here, the first one here, this first value to 8. I already have this memorized from my original project, so I'm going to follow that along. Of course, you can put in whatever you want here. Right here in the Y, we don't need any cubes stacked on top of each other. So what we're going to do is just type in 1 there, so it's only one level high. And over here, we're going to type in 13, since once again that's what I used in my original project. And once we've done that, then we're just going to click these orange dots, and we're going to click and drag, and we're going to drag these out just so that there's a little gap in between each one of these cubes. So we're going to do the same here as well, and I just want it to be kind of subtle, just a little bit of a groove in between each of those cubes, like you can see there. Alright, so that's our cubes, and actually real quick, I'm just going to grab this dot here and make sure our cube's selected, and grab this dot, and I'm just going to scale the height of these cubes down a little bit, because I don't want them to be that tall. And that looks good. Alright, So what we're going to do now is we're just going to add this plane effector to the cloner. So with the cloner selected, just go up to MoGraph, go to Effector, and grab a plane effector. And once we do that, you're not going to see much happen, and that's because we got to change a few parameters around. So go to the parameter tab, and number one, I found that about 10 centimeters in the Y works pretty well. And we're going to go over to the fall off and change the shape from infinite to sphere. And what we're going to do now is just basically play around with the dots here and make this bigger, scale it up a little bit. And we're going to get something, we just want something big enough that's going to, where our logo is going to sit. We just want that area that's raised to be big enough to encompass our logo. So we're going to set our logo right on top of these raised cubes. And you can play around with the weight and the scale and the fall off, and you're going to get different looks every time. I may want to increase the Y here just a little bit. I don't want this too high. It's going to be fairly subtle, so maybe 20. So we just kind of want this raised appearance here, just like that. And we can even make this a little bit bigger if we wanted to. Drag this out a little bit more. So just something like that should be fine. Alright, so what do we want to do now? Well, I guess we could go ahead and start modeling our logo. One thing I do want to say is, to save time on this tutorial, one thing I'm not going to be covering is how to create a logo inside Photoshop and export it as an Adobe Illustrator file. I've already done a whole video on that. I'll also put a link in the description of that video so you can go watch that, because that's a whole nother tutorial, and I don't want to take too much time on this because it's going to be long enough as it is, but I'm also going to try to be as thorough as possible. So I'll cover most of the model, but if you want your own logo to sit on top of this plaque thing we're going to make, I guess you'd call it, then you're going to want to go check out that tutorial, and that'll show you how to do it. So anyways, let's go ahead and start on that. So let's go ahead and start on the actual logo, and then we'll move on from there. So what I did to model the logo was, I believe I just used a bunch of tubes actually, and brought on my first one here. And you know, this is all on personal preference. You know, this may not look that great to you. You know, whatever, you guys can do whatever you want here. What I'm going to do is just modify the inner radius here, make that a little bit thinner, and I'm going to give ourselves some more rotation segments so this looks more smooth. And don't want to go too high on that though, or you'll start lagging in your viewport. But yeah, I just basically created something real abstract and random. So I made an outer ring like that, and then just duplicate this tube. You can hold down Command, click and drag, and that'll duplicate this. And then I just grabbed the scale tool up here and clicked and dragged and scaled this in a little bit. And then I modified the inner radius and brought that in a little bit, like so. And once again, we're gonna duplicate this tube. We're gonna scale this down once again. And then what I did was modified the inner radius again just a little bit, and then brought up the height just a little bit. So you know, we're just creating something real abstract, just something to look at more or less. And you just want to try to make sure this is all lined up with the background here, which is our cubes. You can notice that's going through our cubes, so we don't want that. We just want that line to just be just above our cubes there. And I may want to bring down the height just a little bit on that and drag it back down. And once again, we're going to duplicate this tube, scale it down like so, and we can bring up the height just a little bit more if we want to. So not going to spend a whole lot of time on this since it's really not necessary, but you know, something like that. And then we can pull the outer radius out just a little bit, and then drag the inner radius all the way in so that we have, something like that. We could even go here to the tube and make the height a little bit less. And there we go. So what I'm going to do now, since we kind of have this plaque thing made, I'm just going to highlight all these tubes, and I'm going to group these into a null. So to do that, just hold down Alt and press G on your keyboard, and it's going to basically group all these objects together. And I'm actually going to scale this tube up just a little bit, as well as this one here. So I'm going to modify the height radius, and see what that looks like. Alright, that's a little better. And then what you guys can do, like I said, go follow that video if you don't know how to already do this that I made, and you can put your logo on top of here or whatever you're creating. You guys can do whatever you want. This tutorial is just to show you the techniques and different things to help you with your projects. I mean, that's the main goal of this tutorial. So I just want to make that clear. So anyways, we can double click on this null object and rename it to logo. Say whatever, you can rename it to say whatever you want. And now what we can do is we can click on the null, and if we want, we can scale this whole object up or down, and it'll all be in unison, so everything stays proportionate. So that's that. I'm not going to attach anything to this. I'm not going to put a logo on top of this. You guys get what we're going for. You can put whatever you want there. So that's that. So I guess now we could go ahead and talk about setting up the cameras and stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and drop in our first camera here, and we'll just call this camera 1. And so we don't get confused, because we're going to be using several different angles here. And real quickly, before we do anything else, you may have noticed this says 3 seconds down here, and it typically displays like 90 frames or so. I just changed my units in my preferences. If you guys want to do that, so it's a little bit easier to see how long exactly your animation is going to be, you can go up to Edit, go to Preferences, and click on Units over here and change the animation unit from frames to seconds, and it'll look just like this. So we can give ourselves some more frames to work with. So let's just do 10 seconds to start off with here. So that's 300 frames. And what we're going to do is we're going to create this first little camera movement, which is this right here. So the camera is actually, if I go into another view, is let's see, is it this spline? Yeah. The camera is actually traveling along this spline here, in that motion, so kind of around the object. So if I were to start this animation over, you'll be able to see that camera is actually moving right along that spline, which is very handy. And then you can see it jumps to this camera angle. So what we're going to do, let's go back to our project, and we're going to draw out this spline because we want that same kind of movement. So what we need to do here is go up to the spline tool, and I think we're just going to grab a Bezier spline. I think that's what I used. We're going to click and drag out something kind of long like that, and then click and drag over here like so. So we kind of create this half circle shape, more or less. And if we're not completely satisfied with that, we can always click on our live selection tool with our point mode selected, and we can click and highlight these points and adjust them to get something we're a little bit more happy with. So you can play around with that, whatever. And now what we need to do to get this camera to attach to this spline is we need to right click on the camera, go to Cinema 4D tags, and click on Align to Spline. And we're going to click and drag this spline into the spline path, and when we click through the lens of our camera, it's jumped onto our spline. But you're not seeing anything, and that's because we need to actually raise the spline up because it's setting too low. So I'm going to go into my front view here, and I'm going to highlight both of these points, and I'm just going to drag them up so that we're above our floor. And let's go ahead, while we're at it, let's right click, go to Cinema 4D tags, and add in a target tag. And let's go ahead and make the logo the target object. And you'll notice when we do that, the camera has automatically jumped directly onto focus onto our logo here. So now that we have that, if you wanted to animate this camera, you can't just do it with the keyframe button down here. You'll have to actually animate the position within the align to spline tag. So let's just go Command or Control and then left click on position at 0%, and we'll skip ahead, say maybe 100 frames, and we'll move ahead in our timeline 100%. And then Command and Control or Control left click, create another keyframe, and we've just animated that movement. So you can just see how quick and easy that was to set that up. That's a little bit too fast, so I could slow it down just by highlighting that keyframe and dragging it out more, so we get a little bit more of a slower movement. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, so I like that. So that'll work. That looks pretty good. So what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and drag in a stage. And what we're going to do with this stage is set up our multiple camera angles. So let's go ahead and drop in our second camera. And what we're going to do now is take this camera 1. Let's go ahead and rename this to camera 2 real quick. And then take this camera 1 and drag and drop it into the camera path here. And we're just going to Command or Control left click to keyframe that. And then let's say right about frame 130, we want it to jump to camera 2. So click and drag it on top of camera 1 there. And now we're looking through camera 2, and just make sure you keyframe this. It'll change yellow if you do this correctly, and just create another keyframe. So at 130, it's going to jump to our second camera angle on frame 130. Okay, so Cinema 4D just crashed on me, unfortunately. So real quickly, since that just happened, I want to give you guys another little tip in case you didn't already know. Save your projects frequently, because that does happen from time to time. So since that did happen, I had to go in here and recreate this scene from scratch again because I had not saved. And another little pointer, go up to Edit and go to Preferences and go to the File section here. And make sure you check on autosave, and you can designate how many minutes, how often you want this program to create a backup file for you. So you can designate whatever you want there. I've got it set to 5 minutes, and you can save it to a custom directory or your project directory or whatever, and it's going to automatically create a backup for you every so many minutes. So just another quick tip while it's fresh in my mind. That should help you guys in case you didn't already know. Moving on with the tutorial. So we've got our camera 2 in here, and it switches over at frame 130. And what I'm going to do is just create another spline. So we're going to go up to our top view here. I'm going to go to the spline tool and going to go linear. And I'm just going to draw out another spline like so. Just created 2 points there. I'm going to highlight both of these points using our live selection tool, and I'm going to drag this up and just something like that. And what I'm going to do now is the same process as before. Right click on the camera, go to Cinema 4D tags, go to Align to Spline, click and drag spline point 1 in the spline path area. And then we're also going to right click on the camera, go to Cinema 4D tags, and go to the target tag and select that, and then drag our logo in as the target object. And real quick, I'm going to go ahead and save again, file save, and let's see, at frame 130, this is when it's going to start. So it's actually going to start a little bit before we jump to this angle. So on frame 130, go ahead and go to your spline tag, and we're just going to animate this. So animate the position at 0%, and then at like frame 200, we're going to make this like 100%, and then keyframe that as well. And then we've got another smooth camera motion, our camera movement. So that's pretty cool. So if we start this from the beginning, we're in camera 1, and then at frame 130 it's going to jump over to the second camera angle, which is this one right here. And then for our third and final angle, we can start that at frame 190. Let's go ahead and drag in our third and final camera, so we'll call this camera 3. Make sure we go into select our stage and drag camera 3 on top of camera 2. We're going to keyframe that. So now we are going to be looking through camera 3. And what we're going to do is just, let's go ahead and right click up here, go to customize palettes, and go to PSR, and click and drag and drop reset PSR up here and dock it right up here. And this is going to PSR update our position of our camera. Position, scale, and rotation is what it's doing basically. And let's go ahead and Alt G, put the camera in a null. So what we're going to do now is just let's go ahead and right click on this camera, and let's go to Cinema 4D tags, and let's go to target once again, and we're going to drag and drop our logo in there. And then let's turn off our stage real quickly so we can check outside of our third and final camera. And let's just drag the camera up like so, so that it's going to start out about right here. And we're just using the move tool to do this. So it's going to start out about right here, and it's going to zoom out more or less. So let's start it right there. And so let's keyframe that. So we're going to create a keyframe on frame 190, and then we kind of want this to be kind of slow. So let's just go all the way to frame 300, and we're going to pull this up and up more. So something like that, and we're going to keyframe that. So let's go ahead and turn our stage back on, and this is the camera movement we have. So when it goes to frame 190, you can see it's a slow, it slowly zooms out. And what's really cool about this is that since we put this into a null and did the PSR update, this is directly centered in our logo. It automatically does it for us, which is pretty cool. So let's just run through our 3 cameras here. So it goes from camera 1, and then at frame 130 it's going to jump to camera 2, and then 190 it goes to camera 3. And those are our 3 movements for this animation. So we have our logo, we have our background here set up. Let's hop back to the original project, and let's see, is there anything else we need to do? I think that's it for now. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. Really, the next step would be to set up the textures and lighting. So I'm going to go ahead and save that for the next part, since this is already pretty long. So thank you guys for watching this first part, and I'll see you later.